welcome to episode 16 of the Making It podcast. We are back for another podcast this week, and we're discussing a variety of things. We've got a lot of things going on. Dan, are you a little bit hungover after last night? How are you feeling?
No, I'm not like you on the last episode, boss.
Oh, nice, throwing that one at me. Fair enough.
We went out a little bit last night. I went out after work for a bit, but I literally had like 2 drinks, so I'm completely fine, to be honest.
Do you only have two?
Yeah, I had one after work with Lita, and then I had one in decent social, so I didn't have nothing crazy at all. I
You
wasn't
know
like the
what?
rest.
You're super sensible. It's super sensible, Dan, on the night out. Dan, can I just say it's great to be talking to you. It feels like a relief to be talking to you. To be completely honest, mate, how's your week been?
It's been good. It's been nice being back home. It's been different because I've been home,
Yeah,
but I came home and I've spoke about it before on the pod about coming home and feeling a bit nervous about coming home because just coming back to it's almost like obviously home is familiar, but you get used to familiar environments. And I know you wanted to speak about almost that idea of being afraid of the unknown, things that are unpredictable. And I always found coming home, I always kind of expected to maybe see some people who I maybe didn't want to see, or kind of like I was afraid to be away from Newcastle where I felt like all the opportunity is. So I've always had this nervous feeling about coming home. But I was speaking to a good friend, John, and he said, just go home with no expectations
mm,
and you'll enjoy it a lot more. And that's what I've done. And my first week in home has been really nice. It's been beautiful weather. Honestly, I feel like I'm on
great.
holiday. The weather's been great, but yeah, it's been really nice being home. It's been a nice week, getting back to work in the pub, doing a few bits here and there, and just taking things nice and steady and enjoying the home life and seeing people again. But how about you? How's your week been, bro?
It's been. I mean, the weather's been. Yeah, it's been mint. I think it's pretty much been hotter than Spain, hasn't it, most of the week. So it's been nice to go and enjoy a bit of that. I went out. Obviously, well, that was last week, so I've already covered that. But it's been a bit of a tough week, bro. I'll be honest. I had surgery on Friday, and I've been quite sore since. So I've been in bed for like the last 3 days, and I've not really done anything till today. So this is my first proper like phone call, and I'll be honest, I've not really been in the mood to chat to anyone in the last couple of days. But this morning, my mum said, right, I think it's time for you to get out of bed and start thinking about getting up and not doing anything crazy because I am still recovering, but just to start getting up and get out of bed because I was just wallowing, and I just wasn't washing or anything. I was just sitting there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm back up now. Obviously, I'm doing this podcast for you, and it's just this is a nice therapy session for me, which it always is anyway, But I think me, Dan. I don't like to be sort of just stationary doing nothing. That's the worst thing, and that's what I've had to do. So feels good to be back up and walking about and talking now. But yeah, it's been a tough one, bro.
Yeah, speak to me about how you felt about going into the surgery. You know, that idea of being afraid of what you don't know what's going to happen.
I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. For anyone that has had surgery before, I'm sure you felt the same way. But I opted to go general anaesthetic for my particular surgery.
What does that mean?
So basically, general is when you go under, so you go to sleep, basically. So I arrived at like 11:30 at the hospital on Friday. I was nervous, obviously, but I kind of had my game face on. I'm like, you know what, it's fine. I brought my laptop with me that I'm using now, and I was like, right, I'll just play Football Manager. It'll be fine. So I did. I played Football Manager, got into my gown, and I was like, okay, it'll be cool. Anaesthetist, the guy that does the anaesthetic, came through, and he was like, look, this is what we're going to do. Blah 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 blah. They took me into the surgery room, and I was just like, whoa, I was panicking. I was like, I could feel myself going into that panic attack sort of state. I played a bit of football on Monday night, and I could feel my chest tightening, which is usually a sign that I'm about to have one.
Mm.
I'm someone that has suffered with panic attacks really bad, but thankfully for quite a while I've not had one. But I could feel myself almost having one on Monday, and then it came back on the Friday just as I was in the surgery room, and I said to the guys there, I'm like, I'm so terrified, like I'm so
Yeah.
scared. This is terrifying because I don't like to be unaware of what's going on while things are happening to me. I like to be awake, and I like to be observant and understand. But they sat me down. I don't like injections either. They put this cannula in my hand, and the guy kept asking me the time. The guy that was doing my anaesthetic kept asking me the time, and I'm like, it's 10 to 2. So I kept telling him it's 10 to 2. It's 10 to 2. And as that was happening, I didn't even realise that I wasn't even awake. So I kept saying 10 to 2, and I'm not even awake. And then
Bro,
the
that's
next week,
weird, man. That makes me
it's
feel
weird.
weird, bro. That's such an
Yeah,
odd. That's a weird thing, man, to experience.
it's such a strange thing. It was like a warmth came up from my feet, and then all of a sudden it hits your neck, and then you boom, you're out. And I woke up in the
Bro.
recovery room, and I'm like, where am I? Like, because you are in a mini amnesia, so you kind of forget everything that's happened and where you've been. And they're like, oh, you've just had a surgery. How are you feeling? I was like, what? What the hell have
Yeah.
I done? I'm thinking like I'm looking down. I've got my arms, I've got my legs. I'm like, oh, I'm fine. Okay, all right. It must not be that bad. And then obviously recovered and everything. Went home and been in bed since. But the main takeaway from that is I was not really scared of the actual surgery. I was scared of the going to sleep. You know, that fear of the unknown. Like no matter how many
Yeah.
YouTube videos I watched, no matter how many forums, how many blogs, or how many articles I read, because I read so many to try and calm myself down. Um, if you've never experienced it, it's terrifying. So I'm not saying go out there and get general anesthetic because you don't, if you don't need it, you don't need it. Good,
Mm.
that's a good thing. But that idea of stepping into the unknown, being a little bit more comfortable, you know what I mean? Like being a little bit more comfortable with things that you don't understand, and kind of being like, right, I've got to do it. I've just got to do it. And that can relate to anything in life, whether it is a medical thing or whether it's a job thing. I'm sure, is there sort of examples that you can give where you've gone and perhaps, I would say on an informed basis, you've kind of jumped into something and been like, I don't know what's next, but I'm just going to go for it.
Yeah, I think when I first started my coaching opportunity,
Mm.
going into my first training sessions or going to my first game day, I had no idea what was going to happen. And you can prepare in your head and you can visualize as much as possible. And these things help a lot. They help with that sort of familiarizing yourself with what you're expecting to happen. But you can't really have expectations of something you've never really done before because you've not experienced it before. You don't know really what to expect. So I'd probably say them. I think there's plenty of times I get it a lot with social events. Going to like a certain social event where I know I'm going to see a good amount of people. Who am I going to see? Am I going to have any certain interactions? I always find when it comes to this fear of the unknown, for me, I find it's a lot of anxiety, a lot of thoughts of unpredictability, that fear of not knowing what's going to happen. But I always find as soon as I get into the actual moment itself, I'm completely fine.
Mm.
So I have this build up of anxiety beforehand and, nerves about what's going to happen. Then as soon as I'm in the moment, it's always okay. And I think that settles me down now because now I know that I look forward to the moment now. I would say that anxiety is reduced, but I think it increases when it's more of an unfamiliar environment. And we talk about that sort of expanding your zone of discomfort. Expand that and then it becomes comfort. Expand it even further, it becomes even more comfortable. And that's growth. So I would say new experiences, things where you can't really predict what's going to happen is when I've experienced that. But speak to me about before this surgery, what sort of feelings were coming in? What sort of thoughts were you getting within this sector of this fear of unknown?
Well, naturally, the doctors assumed that I was scared I was not going to wake up. That's what they thought I was scared of. So when the anaesthetist came over and I said to him, I was terrified. I remember him looking up from his paperwork and being like, why? Like it was almost like I don't understand why. It wasn't like a sort of warming. It was like a, why the hell would you be scared?
Scared of what, sorry?
Like scared of going under, going to sleep for the
Yeah,
anaesthetic.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And he was like a very serious, like, why are you scared? Which kind of made me think, whoa, this is kind of irrational. Maybe I am being irrational. And it made me double think. But he thought I was scared of not waking up, but it wasn't that. It was the fear of being like, wow, I'm not going to be aware of anything going on to me. That's terrifying. Um, but the biggest fear, I think, just came from the fact that despite other people testifying how they felt, and people I know, my grandma, my mum, people that have had general anaesthetic saying to me themselves, people who I trust dearly, that it feels this or it feels that. I was like, well, I've not experienced it, so I can't verify that. This is the big thing, because no matter how much someone says to you, you'll feel like this, you'll feel like that. Every person is different. Some people have had bad experiences with it, so naturally you think, oh God, you don't think of all the positive stuff you've been told. You think about that one negative thing because that's the thing that's going to sit in the back of your mind. But I thought to myself, I have to get through this. I think in life, I don't know if there's a psychological term for this, Dan, but you can visualize what the next step looks like. So
Yeah,
you know
just
when you go to,
visualization. Yeah.
But yeah, visualization, right? You go to work, I can almost see what I'm doing after work, chilling upstairs, relaxing. I can see that. With this, I didn't see anything.
Yeah.
I just knew I was having the surgery. I couldn't visualize being at home recovering. I couldn't visualize being in Australia in a few months' time. I couldn't visualize anything. There was just a complete blank, and that was the terrifying bit. I could not visualize the after part of what I was experiencing. But when I woke up, and of course I was probably quite, I rang you, didn't I? And
Yeah.
I was probably a little bit off in the clouds a bit. To be fair. I was definitely off in the clouds a bit.
You like, I had a dream about playing Football Manager.
I did seriously. I had a dream that I was sat back waiting for my surgery. So when I woke up, I'm like, "Well, I've had it." Do you know what I mean? And you just don't know. Um, but the thing that I kind of came to terms with afterwards was like, wow, it is okay to be scared of things like this. Actually, this is complete. This is a very normal, natural feeling, and B, the one thing I've just been saying to myself since it's been done is it'll be okay. That's it. When I have these moments when I'm sat in bed and I'm on my own and it's like 1 a.m. and I can't sleep, I'm like, it's going to be all right. That's
Yeah,
fine. I kind of think,
100%.
you know what? Sometimes you do just have to just sit and go, it's going to be all right. As much as that's hard because it doesn't offer you any kind of like comfort in terms of it gives you like a guideline of when it's going to be all right. You just know it's going to be fine. But to answer the question, like initially, it was just that feeling of what the hell does the next few days look like? I don't know. Am I going to be all right? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, in terms of that sort of feeling, I want to talk to you today about change. And I
Mm,
think, this surgery is a change in your life. It's something new. You're not the same after a surgery.
no.
And I think we experience a lot of change in life. And like you were saying in the pre-chat before this, when we were just discussing about the episode, I think you said some people say they love change. And I think we do. We do love a bit of change because when things are the same, they get tedious, they get boring, feels like you're not going anywhere.
Mm,
Now, that sort of fear you can get from when something changes. I don't know, you're going to Australia for a year. That's a massive change. You're going to be away in a whole different country for a whole year. Maybe you got a new job. That's a change that you're going to fear. It links to that fear of the unknown because you don't know what's going to happen because it's a change, it's something new. And change is what everyone needs because if we lived a life where everything was the same and we did the same thing for the rest of our life, we're not going to reach our potential.
true.
Now, something I find very interesting about change is how do we learn and look at the past? Because when you change something and you change it in a positive way, I don't know, your character. I know I can look back at some times when I was younger, and just as anyone can really, you're 14 years old and you think, the way I used to behave then, I would never do now. But you're 14 years old. But sometimes you resent that and you think, oh, if I could just go back and just not be like that and just be how I am now for the whole time, I would love that. But you wouldn't be who you are right now if it wasn't for
Mm,
those past experiences. And I think even other people, let's say we're quite fortunate we've actually never really had a massive disagreement. But let's say we had a big fallout and I looked at you and I went, oh God, I wish Jamie never did that, man. But it grows you as a friendship. I've got plenty of friends who I've fallen out with, and now our friendship's even better because of it. And I think when it comes to change, I think it's very easy to resent the past because you start to think, I wish I wasn't like that then, and I wish that thing didn't happen. But it's good to focus on being present and then looking forward to the future. So, how can you make that change even more positive? So, in terms of that sort of fear of change, have you ever kind of experienced that sort of feeling? And what's your kind of perspective on that sort of idea of change?
um, I mean, like for me, change is just you know, it depends because there's some things I don't mind changing. That's cool. Some things I really don't want to change. So my work routine, I like the days I work. I like the days I do coaching. I like the days I go to forest. I like those days. When that changes, like it has in the last couple of weeks for various reasons, obviously for the next 9 days I'm not at work, so that kills my routine. That freaks me out a little bit. Um, I think the most important thing is to sort of learn gradually that change is okay, and it will always be the case. Like everything in your life will change at some point. Everything, the way you look, the people that are in your life, the people that aren't in your life. Um, the way your room looks. Do you know what I mean? The way, anything. Your sort of personality will change. Your views on things will change. And it's all because of external influence and also some internal influence as well. Like what do you want from yourself? And I think with change, it is such a scary thing because okay, yeah, as you say, like I am moving away. Um, but with this surgery, which was a big change, I thought to myself, which is a bigger change? I know you shouldn't really compare, things that are going to scare you because that's probably not going to help you out. But I thought, well, what is more scary, really? I thought, well, I'm moving away for a year. That's quite scary. All right, maybe this change isn't as bad. And I suppose, and I'm not telling you to compare things that are going on in your life and go, which change is more scary? This will make me feel better about this. But perhaps sometimes you almost can sort of compare change and be like, maybe it isn't so bad. Like maybe your living situation at the moment is a bit difficult. Maybe, for example, you're looking to move house, you're around our age or a little bit older, but then you see someone who's lived, on the street for a long time and you go, oh, well, the change that they're having in their life compared to mine is,
See, I completely get what you're saying, and I've thought about
to a
this a lot.
degree.
Yeah, I've thought about this a lot because it's almost that idea of, well, what I'm experiencing right now could always be worse. And I think it's a nice way to look at things because often it can be. You may have been walking down the street and you've knocked into someone, and it's a bit of an embarrassing thing, but at least you didn't knock them into a car or something. It could always be worse. Do you know what I mean? And, having that sort of perspective is nice because it can be, and it makes you realize maybe the situation you're in right now isn't as bad as it could be. However, I think there is a bit of room for dangerous thinking there. I'm going to copy your
Yeah.
phrases because I think, what if your worst is your worst and that's going to be your lowest point? It's okay to accept that it is actually quite bad right now. And what's going on, maybe you've had a really bad day or you've been made redundant or something. That is bad. And maybe, yes, there's someone in a worse situation, but your worst is your worst. So it's okay to feel how you're feeling. And I think that, in a way, is a nice way to comfort yourself.
Yeah, I was just going to ask there, Dan, and just kind of jump in because would that make you feel better knowing it's your lowest point, or would that make you feel worse? Because, in my opinion, let's say, I had just been made redundant, and there was a situation where, okay, this is my lowest point. Would I want to know it's my lowest point? Because would that motivate me to go, you know what, this is my lowest point. It only gets better from this, or is it going to make me feel like, geez, this is my lowest point. I'm scared now. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. And in that way, if you knew it was your lowest point, it'd probably be all right because it'd be like, well, if I don't get lower than this, then I'm going to be all right.
But is that are you saying that because that's your way of thinking? Because not everyone's
What
way of
I'm
thinking
trying to
is the same.
say is, often when I was growing up and I felt upset, I would kind of disregard it because I'd go, well, someone else has got it worse.
Okay.
And then I wouldn't accept how I'm actually feeling. And then I couldn't process what I was actually feeling. Because I do feel like I'm lucky in life. I've got a good situation going. I'm very grateful for that. I'll never not be grateful for the life I live right now. But someone else has got it worse. Someone may not be living in a house. That's a privilege, just as it is. It's a basic, a very. It's not a basic privilege, but we all take it as a basic privilege. But it's a very important privilege. Just being able to
It's
live
something
under
we
a roof.
forget about in our life, I think.
100%. But what are you faffing about with?
Sorry, I just was sorry. I didn't want to deviate and get away from that point because my laptop's about to die, and I'm thinking, crap, I don't want to. Sorry if that
No
was a bit
worries.
rude, but I am
It's
on
all
it.
right, man. It's all right. But for me, I think, and it comes with change as well. I think a lot of it is acceptance. I spoke about accepting how I feel. And I
Mm,
think when it comes to change, you've got to accept it. And I think a big one for me, and I've noticed it a bit coming home, is people change. And that will
okay.
never change. People will change, I've just said change a lot of times there. But people change, and some friendships are going to change, some connections are going to change, some relationships are going to change. And for me, it can be quite upsetting because sometimes I see someone become a bit distant and I'm like, it's a shame because the way we used to be isn't there anymore.
Yeah.
But that then gives me more time to spend with someone who is more beneficial for me, someone who actually does care about me, who I'm not going to grow distant from because they want to stay close to me. And I think it's just accepting it. I think acceptance is such a big thing. You know, I think it's something we've all got to embody, because you've got to accept things for sometimes how they are and see the brighter side in them. And in that way, you can always progress.
I agree, and I think, you know, relating to that thing of like, it's almost like that door closing is what I think you're kind of alluding to in terms of a phrase, is that when that door closes, that you want it to just stay open forever, and you kind of go, "Whoa, I can't walk in there anymore. Well, why is this?" But then you kind of just think to yourself, "Okay, well, we'll try the next door then. You know, or we'll try this," and not because you have to. Like in terms of relationships, I'm not saying that when one relationship closes, you have to then give your effort to another. It's not just God's plan. Maybe, you know, people agnostic or atheist, such as, you know, what's gone down there. Can you hear me now? Have you got me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, short break. We had a bit of a technical problem, but we are back. Promise. So, as I was saying before the Wi-Fi interrupted me, about the doors closing, like religious people see this as like God's plan. You know, atheists and agnostics and every other kind of, you know, whoever will see what's happening to them, or some of them will see that this is maybe just life's plan for you, which is what I'm a believer in. I'm a massive believer in the fact that when someone does exit your life, you go, that's horrible, but it's important not to take it personal. Whether that, you know, and if they leave your life for one reason or another, you know, if people pass away, of course you can't take that personally. That's impossible. But in terms of people that maybe you enjoyed relationships with, whether that's in a love relationship or just a friendship way, you can't take that personally. And you know, the important thing is to realize that I think that your path for life is already laid out. You're just discovering it. You know, I already think that the things that are meant to happen to you are there because of the foundations you've already laid, which we've talked about the foundations before. But life's plan is already laid out for you, and you're just slowly walking this path and discovering things. And there's things that try and knock you over and things that do knock you over. But when it comes to, as you say, people changing and maybe not being people you want to associate with, or perhaps their actions now mean you don't associate with them anymore, that's okay. You don't take that personally. If anything, I would say, as hard as it is, that is a blessing. It's fine. There's people that I don't talk to now that I could talk to if I wanted to, or I don't talk to as much, but they're not in my life, so that's fine. I don't mind that. I'm not missing anything. The important thing for me is to focus on what I'm doing, accept what, as you say, it's about acceptance, accept the situation that you're in, and recognize that there is probably a wider reason for this. You won't know this reason until later down the line, I'm sure. But there might be people that have been taken out of your life where you go, maybe if I'd have been friends with that person, I wouldn't be here right now. And that can work both ways, good and bad. But don't take it personal. And, you know, it is okay for people to drop out of your life.
Yeah, and I like what you were speaking about, because I always think that. I always think, oh, our path is almost laid out.
Yeah.
But realistically, is it? Like, realistically, is it actually laid out, or is that just a nice perspective to have? Because I've always had that perspective. What's going to happen is going to happen, and everything happens for a reason. I love it because it's nice. It makes you feel good, because no matter what happens, it's almost like a game face in a way, like a life game face. No matter what happens, you're happy with it because it's happened for a reason, and it's taken you on the path that you're supposed to go on. Realistically, we can change what happens. Right now, I could come off this episode right now. We're not doing an episode anymore, but I'm going to stay on the episode. Maybe that's a bit of a crappy example, but you know what I'm saying. But this perspective of our path being laid out, I love it, because it's that faith. It's that what I'm doing now is for a reason, and it's going to take me to where I want to be. But I do think that comes from, like you say, your foundations, and you have control of that path, and you have control of what you can do in your life. It's your responsibility to make those changes, to have those values that identify with your real, true character. And then I think it's just a nice perspective to have, that then you've laid those foundations. Where it's ended up was where it was destined to. I think you still have control over it. It's just a nice perspective to have in a way.
Yeah, and I think there is dangers, because every sort of concept of what life is has its drawbacks. And I would say that with this idea of the life plan being laid out is maybe the idea that you can't change what's on that path, which is also quite scary, because then if there is something that you don't like in life, you think, oh no, but that's laid out for me. I can't change that. Well, there's two things to that. I do believe that this path, as much as I've just said that the path's already laid out and you're just discovering it, I do believe that the things you do now do change things along that path. And sometimes it can be drastic. For example, if you commit a crime, you go into prison, that's going to change your entire life path. That's given. But maybe you doing that one small thing today that is a negative, that could have a butterfly effect and affect things down the line. So things can change. Also, the second part of that is that, if these bad things don't change and they do persist, how are you going to mold that feeling and how are you going to mold that emotion and kind of use it to spearhead your motivation to do other things that support you and help you? I.e., if you've got a condition that unfortunately affects your life, how are you going to try and put that negativity and the difficulty that you're experiencing into something positive that can make your life more easy to live and more worth living? Is something that's really important. But look, at the end of the day, everyone's got a different concept of how they think life works. And in my opinion, whether you're a religious person or not, I don't really care what your view is. I just want you to be happy. So, people that say to me, you've got to think this way, or you've got to think about this, or you have to believe in this God, or you have to, but you don't. I just want you to believe in what makes you comfortable at the end of the day, and don't lead yourself down a path of things can't change or things are changing too much. Just kind of take a step back and be like, it's fine. Whatever you feel comfortable with, that's fine. Your life is personal to you, right? Your life is personal to you. So don't live for someone else's concepts or thoughts. Just live for what makes you comfortable. I think the beauty of this podcast, Dan, is that we give examples of what's going on in our lives and we give different perspectives on life. And we do go quite deep, I'd say, and we do have a laugh, but we do go quite deep with these things. But the important thing is to go, I'm not giving you any advice because I'm a 19-year-old lad that hasn't lived his whole life yet. There's people that listen to this that will have more life experience than me. But it's what do you take away from what we're saying? And you can go, I can use that. That's what I want you to. I can use that mindset, or I can use that kind of thought process to figure out this. That's what this is about, because just having an idea of how to set up your day or how to get through a situation that's difficult is better than just not knowing and having to figure it out yourself a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Sorry, that was a bit long-winded.
100%. And that idea of it's personal and everyone has a different view, I love that, because sometimes I'll sit and I'll think about some of my mates and I'll think, okay, they've got a different perspective, but it doesn't mean I shouldn't be friends with them anymore. And like we spoke about on a previous episode, and that links to change. Some people are going to change their perspectives, are going to change their identity, and you'd hope it's towards their authentic self. But I think it's brilliant. I think the best life is when everyone is just doing their thing and they're doing it because it links to their identity and it's their true authentic life. Some people may dress a bit differently to how you dress, but I love that. I want people to dress how they want to dress. I want people to live a life how they want to live a life. Me and you, yes, we share values, but I would say we have a different perspective on how we want to go about life. And I think that's the beauty in it. Not one person is the same. And that's why I like that idea of, like you say, things being personal. I just want to give a little thing out today. I got a nomination this week to be Intern of the Year at Northumbria University. So I'm very grateful for that opportunity. I've been invited
to... that, by the way? Do you have to be a student to vote on that, or...?
It's not a vote. It's with my one. The only thing they vote for at Northumbria is a Sports Personality of the Year. So my thing's not a vote. It's the people in the office that decide. So for me, I feel like that gives me a better chance because it doesn't become a popularity contest. But I'm really looking forward to it. It's a sports ball on the 4th of May. So I'll be going to that, and I find out on the night. I'll make a little vlog on it, win, lose or draw or whatever. I'll make a vlog on it. And I just wanted to say I'm really grateful for that opportunity. And it's nice to see. It's nice to get a little reward. A nomination, I'm happy with that. Even if I don't win, I'm happy with a nomination. It's nice to see some people are noticed. And for those people who nominated me, it's just nice. It's nice to know my hard work's paying off and I've made that impact on people. And, Stephen, my mentor, he dropped me a message just before we got into this podcast. And it linked to what we've just been speaking about. And he said, you spend your life building an identity and then you get to a point where you don't want to do anything else which don't account to that identity. And I love that.
you know, as well, Dan, is recognition is important. Sometimes people think that recognition, they mistake that recognition is stepping away from being humble. Accepting recognition is having an ego or being a bit of a, yeah, you know, like I want this recognition. But you know, sometimes you got to sit back and go, I deserve recognition for my work. You know, because at the end of the day, everyone's got an ego. When someone says something that you like it, makes you feel good, it makes you want to do it more. That's sort of what, you know, that's a good thing. I think it's good to have an ego, and it is good to have actually just a pride in what you do. And I know you're a very humble person, Dan, but I want you to accept these plaudits. And even if you don't win, bro, you're the making it. You know what I mean? Like we all think you're the intern of the year. Do you know what I'm saying?
Thank you, man.
You know what I mean? I don't know the other two people. I'm sure they're absolutely smashing it. If it is two people, that
yeah, you're right. You're right.
Three of you. But whatever they've done, I'm proud of them too, and I want them to get the recognition. But it is so important that, as we've spoken about on other episodes, and you've always spoken about on your sports psychology Instagram account, is giving people that recognition they deserve, because we should reciprocate good feelings and good vibes, and we should encourage people to do good things. Or in fact, even if you don't think that what they're doing is going to impact your life in any way, if it's impacting them and they're happy, you know, keep spurring them on. Because again, it's not about how you feel sometimes when it comes to what other people are doing. There's people that commentate on Derby. I mean, I'd hate for them to keep commentating on Derby for the rest of their life, because I'm like, I hate Derby. But actually I go, well, step back. This isn't about me. This is about them. And if they're happy, they're putting positive energy into the world. What are they going to share to someone else that's just starting their journey? You know, if they're happy and inspired, what are they going to go and say to someone that comes up to them and goes, hey, look, you know, I'm starting doing this and I need a bit of support. If you go and you don't give them the recognition, they're not going to have the confidence to go and say to someone, I want to help you. So I want to recognize, you know, and I want to keep recognizing the stuff you're doing, man, because again, whether you win or not, bro, that you're doing some champion stuff, man. And
thank you, man. Thank you very much.
I know how daunting it was for you, but that last match win, that for me was just perfect. A lovely day, a really good win, and you know it was the last day of the game of the season. But
Grandad in the dugout.
You know, it all kind of came about for you, you know, and that's beautiful, you know. So I think, yeah, recognize people. Don't mistake it as massaging someone's ego or being a people pleaser. Just recognize them, because at the end of the day, there's some people that do a lot in their life and they don't actually know how much good they're doing. Tell them.
Yeah, 100%. Give people their kudos, and that links to change as well. If someone's made a positive change in their life or a productive change in their life, and they're steering their life in the direction which links to their identity and their true authentic self, you know, let them know. Like, yes, they may have done something which you resent a little bit and you wish they hadn't done in the past, but you know, if they're making a good change and it's an honest, authentic change, and they're doing something really good for themselves, like you say, give them that recognition, give them that kudos, because change is such a big thing. And for some people, making a change is really difficult, because you get used to and you get familiar with how you are, how things have been. So to make a change which you know is going to be difficult, but it's going to take you in a direction which is, you know, it's going to apply to your making it journey, and it's going to make you make it in whatever ride that is to you. You know, give people their kudos for that. I completely agree with you, Jamie, man.
Yeah, and it makes me smile when someone recognises the work that I've done. That's nice. You know, when I've been coaching in the last, obviously before the surgery, the past weeks before, you know, when the lads come up and they say thank you at the end of the session, I go, wow, that's powerful. You know, someone thanking me for doing that. And whether they mean it or not, or whether they're just saying it because they're like, right, okay, I can go away now. And he's not going to make us do a lap on the pitch again. You know, that it still means a lot. And, you know, it's so important. I feel like I'm in a state of like just being grateful, super grateful now.
Oh, come on, man. You've always got to be in that state.
But I feel like I'm more in that state. I've got 9 days off and I'm thinking what can keep me happy. And, you know, and just having this chat has been really like, I think I've needed this, to be honest. I've needed this. So
I don't need this, man.
You know, we needed this. I know people that listen to this, and of course I'm not going to name any names because it isn't to do with me, how they feel, you know, in terms of me releasing that. But I know people that listen to this and they might just listen to it because they know us as mates, Dan, but they actually take something away from it. And I know some people struggle. and they're still struggling even after listening to this with what's next for them or whatever. But I just want to say and shout out, because you'll know who you are. It might even apply to all of you that are watching now. You're special, man, and whatever you're doing in life, just keep going and keep smiling. Keep smiling, because that is important, and you will get what you deserve if you keep working hard and you keep doing what you love and stuff like that. And I can't exactly tell you exactly, some good news that I've got coming my way. We'll have to see how things go at Wembley next week or week after. But something big is in the pipeline, and I'll be able to release that very soon. But hard work pays off, people. And, I'm just grateful for you, Dan. Grateful for you for listening. And I think that might be actually a good note to maybe end it on.
Yeah, definitely. And I think gratitude is the fuel. It's the life fuel. And if you're grateful every day and you're happy just to be alive and wake up, you can never go wrong. And, focus on your journey. Focus on being authentic to yourself and that identity, and trust in any positive change you make, and really tune into who you want to be in life. And like we said, give people kudos as well when you think they're doing good for themselves. So I completely agree with you, brother.
And when these challenges come up, people, face it head on. It's fine, because it's all going to be
It'll be right.
It'll be right. But just a last thing before we go, again, want to just thank you for listening. This feels like the last episode, like a extended theme. Like, sorry, it's been great, but we're not doing this. But no, seriously, thank you for continuing to support us. We're 16 episodes in now, which is amazing. That's 4 months into this podcast, which is just phenomenal. The support that we continue to get is brilliant. Obviously, the only thing I would ask is if you can go to our social media, maybe share a few things if you can, and obviously like and keep commenting as well, because we want to engage with you and we want to know what you enjoy. We're constantly looking at new things to improve the podcast. So I know that, Dan, you're working on another interview soon. Once I'm back up and ready to go, I'll be also doing a couple more bits. And then I'm going to start doing some vlogs as well for Making It. So we've got loads of cool stuff coming. So if you just keep interacting with us, I promise you we will we'll reciprocate that, and we'll keep putting in some good content, and we'll keep putting in the hard work. But Dan, it's been great to chat with you today. Episode 16 of the Making It podcast. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Promise it won't happen again. Anyway, take care of yourselves, people. That was episode 16.
Take care, everyone.
Podcast. See you next week, Tuesday, 10 in the morning. See you soon. Bye-bye. Right all night. Feel so right.